How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for taking my call today.
Absolutely. Yeah. What would be most helpful?
Sure. So I know, that I want to be focused and efficient. So I really, again, appreciate this. I don't know too much about what to expect, but I sought this call or this consultation because my practice isn't yet where I was hoping it would be. Um,
Hmm.
and I know that some of that is on me, but I want to kind of focus on what can I do moving forward to keep it growing and get it to where I would like it to be.
Awesome. So break down your 5 marketing strategies and your niche for me.
Sure. So I aim to work with kids with and young adults, kids, teens, and young adults with chronic pain who are struggling with functioning and well-being in their daily lives and trying to help them feel well and feel empowered and that they can be confident in moving forward with their lives. Uh,
Mhm.
and so I try to aim at marketing mostly to physicians. I feel like that is my biggest area because most people don't think of that and think of psychology. So I realize that marketing directly to people is like a little bit of a barrier to overcome. And
Mhm.
most people who see me because a physician recommended me.
Mhm.
And so that's where I've been concentrating my efforts, although I try to be a little bit more broad. So I have a website. I do blog every week, or trying to blog every week. I get about three times a month
Mhm.
recently since I saw the post about doing it more regularly. And so I do that. I do my best to network, although I'm certain I could do a little bit more.
Mhm.
And I do write a newsletter once a month to my referring providers just to keep myself top of mind. I'll let them know a little bit about what's going on in my practice. And I also try to do some research review with clinical implications so that they have something of benefit to get out of reading my newsletter. So those are
Awesome.
my top areas. I know that's maybe only four. So I think that's maybe something to focus on because I think my biggest barrier to being as full as I would like to be is just the biggest thing is the call volume is not super high.
Got
Mhm.
it. Okay. So one thing that I think that you may already be doing, but didn't think to put in there, and if you're not, you should absolutely be doing it, is the in the what to say when course, we have the Hey Doc, I'm seeing your patient
Yeah.
template. And so sending at least monthly for every single client because your your niche is so perfectly attuned to that template and that keeps you top of mind for doctors from the
Mhm.
perspective of their patients,
Yeah.
like the way that they're caring for their patients. And if you have multiple clients from the same doctor, then that's opportunities for them to hear about what you're doing very briefly and
Mhm.
how things are going multiple times a month potentially.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a good reminder. I was sending out consultation reports when I got, that permission from people
mhm,
at the beginning, but maybe not always following up. And I always wondered, because I'll call the clinic and say, how do I send this to the doctor? And they're usually just fax it in. And I don't know if it just gets into the chart and they, kind of never get seen. Um,
mhm.
but I think that you're right. That's probably something to be a little bit better about doing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it would depend on the doctor and the clinic and the workflow about whether or not it's seen at the moment or whether it's seen right before they see their next that patient again or
Right,
whatever.
right, exactly.
But it's yeah. I think if there's something significant that happens, like I'm trying to think within the context of your clients,
Yeah, I can imagine something that requires more urgent attention.
yeah, then absolutely hop on the phone with them. But
Mhm.
otherwise, I think like monthly updates could be really helpful, both for your clients and also for the doctor and also for your practice.
Yeah,
Like
I
a
love trying
win.
to make that more of a regular practice.
Yeah. And you could just make that like you could just split that up where you do like a few each week so that
Mhm.
it's not like you spend an entire day doing it or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would do that. Your website, is it speaking to the parents?
Yes, it's mostly it started with like you/your child, and I had somebody read it and they're like, "That's terrible." Um,
Oh.
Because I did want to speak to young adults too, who are maybe seeking their own care. But I have found that even with, early college age kids, it's often the parents who are still the ones seeking that. So I did
Mhm,
make like a young adult tab so that if they were looking, they could kind of see a place to go that speaks directly to them.
mhm.
But it is mostly parent focused language. Mhm.
Yeah, amazing.
Your
Okay.
child is your child experiencing this or that. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and are you talking about the parents' experience?
I
Like
don't
the
know if I am enough because I think there is a lot of sense of overwhelm or feeling
Mhm.
lost that I
Yeah,
could.
feeling lost. And I think so for anybody watching or listening, I have had the benefit of interviewing Emily 3 times for my new business, Not Boring CEs, all around children in pain or the pain, like pain across the lifespan. So I've learned a lot about what you do. It's a realm I knew nothing about. And so I'm like even more acutely aware now of how needed you are in your community. Because there's so much that as a therapist I would have just messed up with if
About
your
that.
clients came to my room, right? Um, so I think speaking to the client, the parents' experience of being overwhelmed, of not knowing what's real and what's not, like that's something we talked about in one of the pods, or maybe all the podcasts, about like not knowing when to be like, you're fine, dust yourself off versus, okay, like I hear you and maybe we need to make a doctor's appointment. So talking about that
Hmm.
and just the frustration the parents have too, because it is an interruption in already very busy lives. That if they have their own struggles with it, it's likely making it worse for their kids. And
Yeah.
it's becoming the cycle of like, then there's more stress on the kid, which is
Mhm.
likely to impact their experience because as we discussed, there's no mind body disconnection place. Like it's all one. So, um, yeah, so I would speak to the parents' struggle as well as the kids' struggle because while the parents are concerned for their kids and they're looking, underlying that is their own stuff.
Mhm.
And you can make it very clear, like you're working with the kids. There is some
Yeah.
like parent involvement in helping the child and supporting the child, but that like you're not going to be their therapist.
Yes. Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in reaching back out to all the docs that have referred to you. And I think expanding who you're reaching out to. I know you're already well connected within like the medical community, a certain part of the medical community, but also maybe branching out to the people. If you're close with a particular doc or NP or PA, ask like who else should I reach out to that your office trusts in terms of like other providers, other medical providers.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Mhm.
And if you can get in with like hospital social workers,
Mm-mm.
to
Yeah,
talk
that
to
doesn't help
them,
connecting people.
yeah, and to ask like, and who do you refer to? Like who gets referred medically? Like who else are y'all connecting with that I can connect with?
Very.
Um, yeah, so you've got, because you're just so beautifully specific, as soon as everybody knows that you're there, like there's zero worry. For me, I know that you will fill because I know there are more clients than you could ever handle in your city struggling with what you treat so well.
Yeah. Thank you
It's,
for that encouragement.
yeah, yeah. It's just getting them, it's just letting them know that you're there. Um, and I'm thinking too about like alternative treatments. Like, what about the parents who are not going medical model?
Right.
Are there some naturopaths or some functional medicine docs that you could connect with? Some chiropractors, some Reiki healers, like going the non-allopathic route also.
That's a good reminder, especially where I live.
Right, right. Because you're like in medical model land. So yeah.
But also, a little bit of a hippie town too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Right. I mean, like you have lived
I've
career
lived in one of
wise.
those
And
worlds before.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So getting to the other side of it with the other providers.
Hmm.
Um, because the beautiful thing about psychology is like it's accepted by both groups.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna be like, that's a racket. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's probably a world I haven't tapped into, but I know that, people seek out and derive a lot of benefit from, or at least try. So those are good people to get connected with.
Yeah.
Mm,
I wonder too about any sort of like lunch and learns you could do um at different pediatricians' offices or different, but specifically to how to help them with their job. So like it's something the nurses would come to, not just the doctors, but like a kid is suffering and the parents really wound up. How like and feeling like there, why don't you just do, why is there no answer right now? Because we all want answers, whether
mhm.
it's our health or our kids' or our kids' health. The answer is better than the not knowing. So how to help manage that. Or thinking through like some of that parent-child dynamic that can happen sometimes in their offices that make their jobs harder,
Yeah,
essentially.
so it sounds like offering a lunch and learn around a very specific practical topic as opposed to like,
Mhm.
here's what I do, uh,
Right.
but kind of to exhibit what I do or demonstrate it a little bit more concretely around something
Absolutely.
that might be a pain point
Uh-huh.
in their specific clinical encounters to make it super useful for them. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful, particularly for the doctors who don't know about you yet.
Mhm.
And you can practice on the ones that do, right?
Yeah.
Like you can start with those offices and kind of refine your talk
Mhm.
and always leave time for questions.
Mhm.
And you can say, like, I know that there are interactions that you have in your offices that I haven't talked about. What am I missing? Like, how can I help you? We've got 10 minutes left.
Mhm.
And that way you can then start building that into the talk as just a part of it.
Right.
So that it shows like, I really get what you do. I get how hard it is, and I'm here to make it easier by making things better for the kids and thus the family.
Great. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I feel like I've already gotten so many gems just in the last.
Yay.
Uh,
Good, good.
yeah.
I will give you a lot of work. I'm sorry.
No, this is good. This is really helpful. I was hoping to leave with some action items. Mhm.
Good. How are you doing with it, mindset wise? Like, how are you feeling? It hasn't built as quickly as you wanted. How are you handling that?
That's a great question. It's I it's a mixed bag. Mhm.
Mhm.
A mixed
Yeah.
bag, moment to moment. I think it's really coming up because I am looking to invest more in my business right now. Trying to take on a full-time office because I've been getting so many requests for in person, but
Mhm.
then the worries, well, if you build it, will they come? Um,
Right.
kind of questions. So I think it is coming up a little bit there, but I also am really lucky to have a really strong support system who are encouraging and patient. But I think there's always that second guessing, am I doing something wrong?
Mhm.
Or, do I change everything about my model?
Right, right.
Mm,
But what you're doing, you know what you do works. You know that your clients get the relief that they need and they get the ability to manage symptoms that they need so that they don't spin out and things don't get worse.
mm,
Um, so it's, yeah, having an office, you can start with subleasing. You don't have to get your own entire place that you have to furnish, or you can get your whole entire place, furnish it and sublease the days you're
mm,
not there.
mhm, mhm,
Because there's still, I don't know, every place is different. Where I live, there's not enough
mm.
offices for therapists. They're always in need. So
Yeah,
there are opportunities there for it to be less expensive
that's
than it
that's very
feels.
that's very true. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing, but yeah, exactly. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I
Another
look
thing that
up.
helps me with those kinds of investment things is breaking down like how many clients do I need to pay for this? Like, or how many sessions will pay for this office? If it's like 4 sessions, like one client a month, like one client weekly for a month,
Mhm.
I mean, that's great. If it's two, that's great too, So just like figuring out what that looks like. Are you taking insurance or are you private pay?
And private pay, which is definitely
Mhm.
something I continue to wrestle with, so that's like a mindset thing too. I
Mhm.
know that for my own well-being, I don't want to be working on insurance authorizations and approvals and things like that. I want to be able to concentrate on doing the clinical work of
Mhm.
helping my clients and patients and doing all the background work that goes in between sessions.
Yeah.
Uh, but, I do feel bad about access, and I worry that that is maybe also driving the low calls if people are looking at my website or hearing that I don't take insurance and just writing me off right at the beginning. I do try to do some mitigation strategies. Um, when they call, I try to give them lots of information about reimbursement options, and talking about that, this is not a lifelong investment, and what they can get out of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's something I worry about too, but I am right now entirely private pay.
Yeah. And if where you live, the insurance does a decent job of out of network benefits,
Yeah.
something like Mentaya or one of those kinds of things can also be really
Right.
helpful. Where I live, it's kind of like, well, yeah, you have out of network benefits as soon as you've met your out of network deductible of 10 grand a year.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like here it kind of feels like it just doesn't work with
Mhm.
our biggest insurer. But if it does work where you are, then that could be a real benefit.
That's a really great reminder of trying to, break it down and help people have resources to figure that
Yeah.
out. Mm.
Yeah. Because I think about like parents who have kids with chronic illnesses or chronic pain, they've messed with insurance a fair amount, right? Like this is not their first rodeo. They know what a deductible is. They know all these things, unless this is their first year and it just landed and they're still learning. But most of them have probably been around the block with insurance. And most of them probably really get why you wouldn't take it. Um, so it could also be like, the education around I can give you a super bill. They
Yeah.
probably already know what that is. Um, but I think if you can get some like real world examples of how much people are getting reimbursed in your area,
Yes,
then
numbers. Yeah.
yeah, then you can say like, I can't speak for your insurance, but I know, one of my other clients is getting back 60% of what they spend. Um, so it'd be worth doing a little investigating there with some peers.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. Thank you. Yeah.
What other questions?
Oh goodness. I guess like, yeah, I hadn't gone in with specific questions other than how do I get more people in? Because, everybody tells me, which is so lovely that, that there's a need, but I haven't seen that connecting the dots. Um, I wish I'd prepared more specific
It's all
questions.
right. It's all right. I mean, we can just riff off. Like I'm thinking about, is there a children's hospital nearby?
Yeah, the one I worked at.
Yeah. So could you offer a free workshop for parents whose kids are currently there?
Yeah, that'd be
Um, that way they're like you would leave them with very actionable like understandings about like pain, their kid in pain and how parents typically respond to that. Like you could, I think, as a parent of a kid who often experienced, which is better since we last talked, but
oh,
yeah, apparently some medications just make things hurt. So we got off. But thinking about how there's the dismissing that often happens with parents. There's the like overreacting. So like going through each of those kinds of things, especially if their kids are currently in the hospital or are frequent flyers in the hospital, there's this it's easy to panic and then it's easy to get at the start and then easy to get complacent,
right.
basically. And
Mhm.
so just talking about those dynamics is going to help them feel very seen and known. And even if they're not people who can afford your services, they're going to leave with something that helps them know like they're not being jerks when they're dismissive. They're just like there's something else they can be doing instead. And the overreaction is also a natural parental thing and there's something they can do instead.
Right.
So talking them through that and how maybe coaching them on some of the uh, strategies that you use with kids, like some things within ACT or whatever that you can teach them to use with their kids to help their kids not be spinning out about the pain or not be as rooted in the pain. Um, as kind of like a little taster, like it's like just the little spoon at the ice cream shop of like here's some of what I work with families on.
Mhm.
Um, and my favorite thing whenever anybody gives a talk is at the end to be like, for some of you, this is exactly what you needed. For others, you want and need to go deeper. You want some more support, and I would love to offer that. Like my cards are here. I would love to talk about how I can support you.
That's a great Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that, kind of call to action for some people.
Yeah.
Giving everybody something. And that's
Mhm.
always something I'd wanted to be able to do in my previous role and I wasn't able to. So I appreciate the idea of being able to be creative and do these different things and be able to give it more in my community. I think that's something I've been wanting to be able to do, especially being private pay, but I think just in general, wanting to be able to be a good member of the community, not just in my own little corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that idea. So thank you for that.
Sure. Sure. I'm sorry I've like made your to-do list extremely long already, but
No.
but it will get the clients in
I
the
have
door, so it's
time,
worth it.
apparently.
There
So
we go. And it's also the summertime, which
yeah.
people tend to get fewer calls.
Mhm,
And so it'll probably ramp up in
mhm,
the fall because there's also, depending on the family and how it manages things, like it may be that things really ramp up in the fall because now the parents are even more overwhelmed and every complaint feels like a dagger.
yeah.
Like every complaint about pain, because now they're trying to get them to school and they're trying to manage all these things and like picking them up from school, and it just becomes more chaotic. So that might also be a historically high time for your practice as you move forward. You might be like, oh yeah, gear up for September.
That's what I've heard, and we'll see. Yeah, I liked your idea of I think that you posted recently about aiming to have a slightly higher number or volume during the school year, and then
Mhm.
being able to handle a lower volume in the summer, which also sounds pretty pleasant and
Yeah.
nice too. So I liked that kind of shifting goal and being able to work with the seasons.
Yes, absolutely. Especially for folks that work with kids, because it is going to be like a dip season
Mhm.
almost every year,
Yeah.
unless something big and catastrophic happens. But there will probably always be a dip for people working with kids.
I guess speaking of hours, I kind of had two questions, and maybe we have time for both, or maybe neither. One of them is around, I know you do a lot of talking about set the hours that you want to work.
Mhm,
And of course, feeling that tension, especially when the school year comes around, of
mhm,
getting requests for every odd hour and weekends, which I do not want to work.
mhm,
And similarly, I feel like something that I get some tension around is encouraging families to do a regular schedule versus being accommodating and kind of shifting the appointments around week to week, which I
mhm,
think leads to some disconnect. I think there's benefit in that it, works with a chaotic family schedule, but at the same
mhm,
time, I think leads to a deprioritization of our sessions. And, sometimes they are scheduled a little bit irregularly, which I think affects things for the clinical care and also affects things for my business side of things.
mhm. Absolutely. I love a recurring schedule time. And I
Mhm.
think you can frame it with parents because it does actually make it better for them too, not just because they're coming more regularly, their kids getting more benefit, but also it's one less thing they have to schedule that week.
Mhm.
Like it just like it takes the pressure off. If you come every Tuesday at 2, then I'll be here every time. Like
Right.
it's, and if there is a doctor's appointment that gets scheduled during that time, then yeah, absolutely we can be flexible about that. But everybody who calls you, you can start out just explaining to them like, now I work with people at a regularly scheduled time, like every Tuesday at 2. It looks like right now I have every Thursday at 1 available. Does that work for you? Um, the working every hour that they want you to work, I think that when you're not yet full, it's easy to feel like maybe I should be doing that. But when you're full or near full, you only have like Wednesday at 10 a.m. You only have like weird times and they end up getting filled. So that's why I'm always like, work the hours you want to work because they will all fill anyway. They might feel slightly slower, sure. But I would rather it fill slower if you can handle it financially than you having to be like, okay, I have all these clients who are really committed to 5 o'clock in the afternoon to 6 at night. And 6 to 7, like I have all these clients who maybe can't shift because I took them on. And now I'm stuck with this weird split shift schedule that I don't want as I try to transition to what I do want.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And every job I ever worked were like 9 to 5 hours. So when I worked with kids for a lot of my career.
Mhm.
So like it gets handled. People make it work.
Yeah.
when when it's the option they want, you know? Um, I wonder too, you were saying, oh wait, I don't want to, you had a second question, right?
Those were my two-parter,
Okay, got it.
same theme.
Got it. I'm thinking about how you were like, I want to explain to them and like show the benefit in that first phone call. Um, does it feel like convincing? Like you're trying to convince them?
I'm worried that I think I work very hard not to appear that way because I don't want to
Mhm.
be a sales pitchy kind of person.
Yeah. Yeah. If it starts to feel like you're trying to convince them, like you can just ditch that part of your script. Like whatever you've been saying, if it feels like people are retracting on the phone, trust your gut with it. And like you don't need to prove the benefit. You can say, my goal is that your kids in therapy fairly short term,
Yeah.
because I want to teach them all of the skills for them to practice this on their own. And later in the future, if they need some like refresher sessions, we can do that. But I'm not somebody who I don't want your family to have to bring somebody to an appointment every single week for the next 2 years. That's not my vibe.
Yeah.
So you can say it like
I
that
like
so
the way
that,
you said it because I think it's a little bit more succinct than the way I start to explain it about like, oh, we're gonna do regular chickens and all this and that. So yeah, I appreciate
Mhm.
that. Like,
Yeah, because I'm thinking about your ideal clients, parents they're overwhelmed.
mhm,
And they probably are talking to or have talked to a lot of providers who talk at them.
mhm,
And so like part of what you have the opportunity to do is like show like you were sitting right beside them and
yeah,
like you are slowing it down for them if they need it slowed down. You were using like more succinct language or smaller words or whatever in order for them to be able to get what they need. Um, because when we're overwhelmed, we just don't process as well.
yeah. I think I start out with like a lot of what are your goals or what do you want out of this, and then it becomes like almost a mini therapy session, which is something I have to work on too because it ends up being pretty long. But I try to then learn what they're looking for and then try to connect. It sounds like you really want your son or daughter to feel this way or to be able to do this thing.
Mhm.
Kind of connect what I do to that goal. But it ends up being this super long conversation. But I think, when it goes well, it goes well. And I feel
Yeah.
really good about it. And I want them to feel confident in their decisions too, because I think
Mhm.
there's so much uncertainty. I think probably in general for anybody approaching a new therapist or psychologist, but especially I think in the work that I do.
Yeah, yeah. And I think because of they are becoming savvy with the whole medical system in a way
Mhm.
they probably never wanted to be or hope to be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, being able to be picky about their providers too is something that they're probably realizing along the way is going to be necessary for them to get the care that they need.
Yeah.
So they get to be picky in a good way with you, like choose you because I mean, you're just so uniquely trained. You know what you're doing in a way that most of us don't with this population. So they need you to get out there more because they need you so they can come to you.
I do hope other people take up the challenge and continue to do the work that I'm doing. I think a lot of people can. Uh,
Mhm.
but I appreciate the vote of confidence in my niche and expertise.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so good. Awesome. Well, I'm glad we got to talk. Well, I won't apologize for the work. The work is going to yield what you want. So yay for the work.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate the tangible action items, and I can see, where I can kind of fit them into a routine to make it a sustainable part of my workflow.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks, Emily.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye.